Nice thick stew. Oh, very good. Okay, today we're going to make the bestest beef stew ever using the Ninja Foodi Smartlid OL 701. Now this is all the ingredients we're going to be using for our beef stew. It's going to be slightly different than the beef stew that you're used to in that it's going to be tomato-based beef stew versus a pure brown gravy beef stew. So we'll start off. The meat that you go on to use, your first choice will be short ribs. So you want maybe 6 or 7 short ribs, meaty bone short ribs that's maybe 3 inches long. That would be my first choice of meat to be using. If short ribs are not available, a second alternative that's very close to short ribs will be Black Angus beef chuck roast or pot roast. If by chance you don't have Black Angus chuck roast by you, then go buy regular choice chuck roast. Don't get the select one, they'll be too dry and too grainy. So be sure to get the choice or better chuck roast. So what I did was that we got maybe 2.5 pounds of chuck roast here. And then I trimmed off all the fat on the chuck roast because chuck roast could be kind of fatty. If you trim it now, you don't have to skim it later. So what I did was that I cut it in big chunks. And we can see these are probably like 2-inch chunks. Don't cut it too small. Now, I got about 3 cups of water in here. And what I got is I sear right now. So I want to get this water up to temperature. And we'll be adding to this water right now 3 bouillon cubes. This is beef bouillon cubes. And we're going to let that thing get soft and dissolve. Bouillon cubes are pretty salty anyway, so you really don't need to put any additional salt into the beef stew unless you want to. I mean, some people like it really salty. And while that's starting to heat up and dissolve, then I'm going to put in maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper, or just salt and pepper to taste, you know. If you want to add salt, you know, I'd add a little bit more, maybe another 1/8 teaspoon here of salt. And naturally, you can see the beef bouillon cubes already dissolved, and that's fine. Once that happens, we start adding our ingredients: rosemary, thyme, and marjoram. So basically, you're going to want to do like 3 nice-sized pinches of each one. So this is the whole marjoram going in. That's ground up, dried marjoram. Thyme will be next. Thyme is the one that really gives you the nice taste. And then last is rosemary leaves. Now, a lot of people like to use bay leaves. Some don't like to use them. But, you know, bay leaf adds something to it. It's pretty hard to describe what it actually adds, but 1 leaf of bay leaf. Okay, now once that thing starts to bubble up, now the reason why you want this water to be hot is that once you start pressure cooking the meat, it's going to take that less time for the stew to come up to pressure. So we'll get our tomato paste, and it's just a 6-ounce jar of tomato paste, and we just add it to our water here. Yes, tomato paste beef stew is going to what separates it from regular beef stew that you normally going to see in restaurants. But this is something that I've worked on for many, many decades. And then we're basically going to start adding our meat. Now, one thing good about beef stew is that, you know, make a lot because you go use leftovers for the following day. And if you're going to use it for the following day, I would add some tomato sauce or any type of spaghetti sauce that you have lying around to bring up more juice, because once this thing sits overnight, the ingredients are going to soak up a lot of that gravy and you won't have much left. So just add some tomato sauce to it. Now we're going to drop this thing down, stop it, pressure, quick release, and we're probably going to do this thing for like 40 minutes. Let's start. So we'll just let this thing get up to temperature and let it pressurize, and I'll get back to you when it has cooked halfway through. Now while this thing's coming up to pressure, then we're going to chop up our vegetables and get that ready. I took out maybe 6 ounces of frozen peas, and I just set them off the side, so let them defrost. I usually use 2 large carrots, the big size, inch or so in diameter, but in this case, our grocery store did not have any large carrots, so I'm going to be using, 3 of the smaller carrots, 3 celeries, and a half a baked potato. We'll skin these things up and cut them into slices. This is going to be our second portion. Once this meat comes up and cooks, then we'll add the vegetables in for about another half an hour or so, and then the beef stew will be ready. Okay, the first leg of the pressure cooker is done. So that's what it looks like. Now at this point of time, you can see the clear liquid. We want to try to get that out. That's the fat we're talking about earlier. So you want to remove as much of that as possible, otherwise you're going to have a greasy beef stew. Which is okay if that's what you're looking for, but for me, I'd rather not. Luckily, the grease floats to the top like that, so you don't have to go crazy. Just get as much possible as you can out. We really don't have that much here. Okay, so we can see most of it's out. Let's do this around a little bit. The meat's still somewhat semi-tough yet, but that's okay because we're gonna go add our vegetables in. We're adding the carrots, celery, potatoes, and then our green beans. We got probably a pound and a quarter of green beans here. And you can use, whatever vegetables you have lying around. That's what's good about beef stew. I like green beans in it. Green beans are healthy for you. This could be healthy food too. So we're just gonna make sure everything's pretty much in contact with the water. And you could judge right now how much longer you're gonna have to pressure cook this. You can see the meat's somewhat tender, but not quite to where I want it. So we're gonna cook this down for about 30 to 35 minutes. So we'll just drop the lid down, put it back on pressure, keep it on quick release, and we're probably gonna, say 35 minutes. The second round of pressure cooking, you just want to tenderize the vegetable and complete tenderizing that meat. So if you got something to do, go ahead and do it. We're pretty much on our second leg, so we only got one more leg to go, and that's adding the peas, the ground clove, and then the noodles. The egg noodles and the potatoes going to help thicken the gravy up. Between half an hour to 35 minutes should be fine. So we'll get back to you in 35 minutes. Okay, the pressure is released, and right now from start to finish, we got 2 hours and 25 minutes to this point. Now this is our third leg. That's what it looks like. You can tell the vegetables are done, the meat's done. Just give a nice stir here. And you can see that it's got a lot of liquid. So we just got through removing about 4 inches of snow since we first started this video. So we're kind of hungry and we want to get this thing going. Remember the peas that we defrosted? It's about defrosted now, so we'll just throw the peas in. So I'll put on saute, maybe 3. We want to keep it hot because what we're going to do is we cook the peas, and we want to cook the noodles. Now, like I said before, the potatoes and the noodles are going to thicken up this juice. The juice is kind of watery now, so we start adding our noodles. This is egg noodles, the white version, so we want to get that in the water. You can break up the potatoes too, and that's going to help thicken the sauce. You can see it's thickening up already. And if it gets too thick, just add more water to it. We'll keep an eye on it. And just have a little tumbler of water. The noodles is going to take about 6-7 minutes for it to cook, so we'll just keep it on this sear and saute for that amount of time. The last portion actually is our ground clove. Now this one here you're going to have to season to taste because ground clove is very strong, so you don't want to put too much in it. It's going to be very strong, and so just season to taste. I put about a half a teaspoon in to start. I mean, you could start out with a quarter teaspoon, taste it, and then add more as needed. But now you can see it's only been about a minute now, and you can see how thick up the gravy is. And what happens is that when you stir it around, the meat itself is going to start absorbing the juice. Okay, so once it comes up to boil, you can start decreasing this the heat. Drop it down to 201. So you just want to simmer it so that the noodles will cook. So we got about another 5 minutes. All right, it's been 2 hours and 35 minutes from start to finish, and you can see what the end product looks like. Nice thick stew. It's all ready to be eaten. So we'll dish this thing out. Notice I didn't put no onions in the beef stew. You could add onions to it, but since we're feeding our beef stew to the dogs, we don't add the onions. So I hope you found this video informative. please click the like button. When you have a chance, please subscribe. And thank you for watching. Oh, very good. Okay, doggies. You agree. Well, good.